Graveyard shift, getting off the graveyard shift. All the truck drivers, plumbers, janitors, teachers, cops, highway patrol officers, bus drivers, train operators, you name it. Shout out to Bart, because we may be catching that bad boy in about a month and a half when we move to new studios. That's right, Shasky and Bonte may be on the Bart train, baby. 5:15 in the morning. Let's go. Good morning, everybody out there getting ready for work. If you're at work, what is happening? YouTube brought to you by First NorCal Credit Union and Twitch as well. Shout out to you guys out there representing Xfinity Mobile text line. Spadoni, Ludman, and of course you, Joe Shasky, the third. I am on one. I just this season needs to start. It needs to start. I need games.
Like I just feel like the way we talk about the Niner organization is unique to them, because we don't talk about any other situation in sports that way. When you have to have a franchise quarterback, like that is established.
Yep.
Every year Burrow doesn't win it is a lost year. Every year Mahomes doesn't win it is a lost year. There's only a couple of guys. Like,
right.
Do people think that every year Herbert doesn't win it?
Not
it's
yet.
a loss? No, not yet.
Right,
but every year Aaron Rodgers doesn't win it is
it's
unsuccessful.
A lost year.
Right? So to say that, like, Purdy has to win the Super Bowl or else it's like, yeah, because of the roster being so good, right. Not because of him, and that's unfair to me. Like, on him, but that is part of being the quarterback of the Niners.
It's being the quarterback of the Niners. It's the expectations. It's the roster around him. It's the head coach. It's the way he played last season. He looked like a guy capable of taking his team to the Super Bowl. So we'll table this conversation for after we get off the phone with Dave Flemming, who's down in Orange County watching the Angels, the Giants, and he gets to see Shohei, the pitcher, tomorrow evening, but he got to see Shohei, the batter, as the Giants, man. Rough series over the weekend in Oakland, Flem, as we say good morning to you, but they bounced back in a major way. 6 runs in the 9th inning last night, a season high, and boy, did they need that win. Another clutch hit by Patrick Bailey. He's playing some good baseball, and a tough outing for Logan Webb. He pitched with guts yesterday to get through it. It's the dog days of August. You know, things are going to get tight. Things are getting tight here, but the Giants with a much-needed win last night in Anaheim. We all needed it, Flem. We needed it for ourselves.
Yeah, we did. Mostly just because you lose both those games. You lose one game in Oakland, it's like, okay, it happens in baseball. I mean, the A's, as bad as they have been, they've won 32 games or whatever it is. Like 32 times somebody's walked out of a game against them going, man, we should have won that game. So it happens. That's what happens in this sport. When you lose both, and especially when you lose the game on Sunday the way they did, just so unlike how they've been playing, sloppy, bad defense, bullpen wasn't perfect. Their starter, who's an all-star, wasn't himself. So it just left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. And there has been it's been a pattern of a lack of offense for a long time now. The Giants' offense just hasn't been great, and it's been propped up. They've stayed not only in the playoff race, but in a playoff position by being so clean in almost every other way. And it's just inevitable. Like, that's not going to continue forever and ever. You can be a really good defensive team, a really good pitching team. It's hard to be perfect. And so that's where the offense is going to have to do what they did last night. And they weren't perfect yesterday. A couple misplays in the outfield. Make up for it. Score a few runs. And that's exactly what they did. So it felt good for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, J.D. Davis, like, kind of busting out because he had been kind of struggling since the All-Star break. But to me, over the weekend, I noticed, Lamont Wade waking up. That was huge. And then just Tyro Strada being back in general. He's such a catalyst for this team. He had that nice bunt the other day. And just on the dog days of summer when the team isn't really, like, hitting right now, somebody like Tyro is just a jolt of energy. They really missed him.
Me too. I agree. And I think that is, sometimes it's like a cliche or even a cop-out when you don't make a big move at the deadline. Well, we got one of our guys back. That's going to be like a trade. That's what it's felt like with Tyro. It really actually has. It's felt like they made a big addition to this roster. The bunt was, to me, the bunt was one of the great plays of the year. And as soon as he executed it in that spot, I thought there's no way they're losing this game. That's another reason why Sunday felt so bad. It was just such that's a cool, when you do something like that, pull that off. And to me, it's like that. Those games are hard to lose when something that good happens. It was one of my favorite plays of the year. I thought his base running on Saturday, he had one of the best base running plays in a long time. And then last night, it wasn't a big game, but he contributed in a couple different ways. He can play shortstop. He played a nice shortstop last night. I think you're going to see that basically every time the Giants face a lefty. I think you'll see Tyro playing over there at shortstop. You're right. They missed him big time. The lineup looks deeper. When he's hitting second, your seventh and eighth place hitters, all of a sudden that's Bailey and Matos as opposed to those guys having to move up toward the top of the order. It just makes everything better.
Well, you feel like these bats are starting to come around again. You score 6 runs against the A's. You get the 8 last night. Feels like maybe the page is starting to be turned here. Now they're getting some reinforcements back. We'll see Luciano back at some point. Casey Schmidt goes back down to Sacramento, the AAA. But it feels like maybe this offense is it could get healthy here over these next couple games against the Angels, and then hopefully get the rolling once the schedule tightens up.
It definitely feels like, Joe just said Wade. I mean, that's true. Wade's swing has looked way better over the last week. Had a big series against Arizona. They don't win that series without him swinging a bat like that. Last night was, to me, I agree on J.D. Davis. Like, that looked like, okay, that's the guy we watched for most of the year. All good at bats, every single one of them, all the way through. Maybe you toss out the last one after they put the game away. But J.D. looked like himself. Jock's shown some signs. They still need more from Jock, and they still need more from Conforto. But I think, if you go one by one, you say, okay, 2 or 3 of these guys look like they're ready to start hitting again. And if you get those 2 big lefty bats, then against right-handers, the lineup just looks much more formidable, much more. And I think it will happen. Those guys are too good to – it's been weeks and weeks without much of anything from so many of those Giants veterans. They're too good for that.
Yeah. Matos has been so good defensively in center. He misplayed the one in Oakland off the wall. He had made the play the day before. He misplayed that one. And then last night, a couple of little gaffes. But it's not so much about Matos, because I thought he's been really good defensively, just for the most part. But he kind of lollygags after a ball. And Shohei Otani does exactly what Corbin Carroll does, where he's running 150 miles per hour out of the batter's box and takes second base. And I'm saying, I don't think people understand how unique that play was. That was just a routine single to center field, and he just took second like it was nothing. Flem, I'm blown away how good he's unreal. There's not even a question there. I was just blown away watching him.
He's unreal. And that was a great play to use as an example. Like, this is the guy who right now is the best hitter and best power hitter on the planet, and he can do that. Like, it's just amazing how captivating he is to watch because of the just extraordinary talent. I mean, it stands out so dramatically how talented this guy is. He obviously cares. He's obviously worked hard. He's, coming in, I looked it up. Giants, we just haven't seen him very much. It's like we've been cheated from the Shohei experience, because we just have not head to head been able to see much of him. And coming into last night's game, in his career against the Giants, 3 hits in 26 at bats, all singles. Wow. Like, that's what we've seen in person. And one start, he did pitch well against them, but they've only seen him pitch head to head one time. So last night almost felt like a new experience, weirdly, for a guy who's become the most famous baseball player on the planet, who's had, as one person here yesterday said, and I think this is, to me, it's a good way to put it and an interesting perspective. The 3 greatest, most amazing Major League individual seasons in history are Shohei Otani 2021, Shohei Otani 2022, and Shohei Otani 2023. Now, you could probably argue a little, but the premise is still, I think I agree with the premise. The guy is unprecedentedly great, and his swing looks different to me now. I mean, it's amazing. Just one game of seeing him in person, he looks much more honed and dangerous than those first few times we saw him. I'm just blown away by the guy.
So what do you think, Flem? $100 million a year for Otani? Is that the starting point?
I would do it. Yeah. Whatever it took, I would do it.
I'm with you.
Easy for me. It's easy for me to say I'm sitting here. It's not my money. But it's not just the great player that you're getting. It's the idea that every single night, if you have him, is must watch.
Yep.
It's like, this guy is just an incredible athlete at his peak, and it's going to be fun to watch him, not just this year, but for many, many years. And I just think there's incredible value in that. Now, look, you can get you can get into the weeds on the technicalities of how do you build a team and taxes and payroll and all that stuff. Whatever it is, I think he's going to be worth it. I do. He is. You're not going to, at the end of your time having Otani on your team, I would guarantee, with everything that I believe, that you're not going to look back on it and say, man, we regretted that. That was a mistake. We shouldn't have done that. I cannot envision a scenario where you would say that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Dave Flemming here on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game. I'll pay him anything that he wants here. But you go from watching Shohei to seeing Bruce Bochy back in the Bay Area over the weekend. The Texas Rangers, who have been rolling in the AL West, they suffered a tough injury over the weekend with Josh Young, one of the fine young third basemen in the American League. He was in line for the Rookie of the Year. We'll see if he can get back for the playoffs. But, man, what's the first thing you're going to say to Bochy when you see him back at the yard?
You look terrible in that Rangers uniform.
The baby blue?
The baby blue.
That's like my dad's wedding suit from 1978.
Right. Not the look that your dad or anybody is trying to recreate.
Yep.
I can't wait to see him and say hi. I tried to get him to hang on the off day because we have this off day when we get back from Anaheim, and understandably so. He's got family. He's got so much scheduled. So we've got a rain check going on that. But I can't wait to see him and give him a big hug and talk to him. I mean, look, he'll be all business, and I'm sure for him it's going to be a weekend where he's going to be, because Boch doesn't like it when people just heap praise on him. It's going to be a weekend where everybody's going to be heaping praise on him. But he's obviously doing a great job in Texas. He's really helped get that thing turned around. Now, they're a talented team, but it is not a coincidence that he showed up there and all of a sudden that talent started to come to the forefront. He's just a super talented people person, manager. To me, he's everything you want in a guy in charge of your operation. And like we joke about this forever Giant thing.
Mm-hmm.
You see somebody who played 10 minutes in a Giants uniform, he's a forever Giant. Bruce Bochy is truly a forever Giant. And all those years he spent in San Diego, but the Giants are where his talent, his abilities were allowed to really shine through, and I can't wait to see him.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt about it. And I'm not going to get into this with you because I got 4 players I want to rat-a-tat-tat, the youngsters that I care about. But Saturday is 90s Day, so we're going to celebrate that 93 team, get to wear those cool jerseys. You talk about Forever Giants. I'm Forever Giants in those white, curvy Giants jerseys. I'm excited to see that. But I want to ask about the youngsters, and that's why we love those older teams. And
Not Darren Lewis?
No, not going to ask about
Barry
Lewis. Royce Clayton in short.
Barry Bonds, yeah.
No. But I want to rat-a-tat-tat these youngsters. Casey Schmidt gets dropped down to AAA. It felt like it was appropriate.
It did. He needs to get back on track, and it happens with young players. I think everybody believes in his ability, but he was underwater here, and it wasn't getting better. Like the quality of the at-bats was getting a little better in terms of taking the right pitches and swinging at the right pitches, but ultimately it's a production league. And so I think, look, he needs a reset. He's going to get it down there. Does that mean his future with the Giants is over? Anything but. They still believe in his ability. It didn't help that he was bouncing around defensively. That's just what this team required right now. I still believe in Casey, and so I can't wait to see him get back down there and just start to feel like himself again.
Luciano was better defensively at short, and it was only a couple plays than I thought he'd be. I really like him. Is he going to get another look coming back up here?
He is. I think it could be sooner rather than later. I think as soon as he gets some reps at second, I think there's a pretty good chance that Luciano's going to come back up to the big league team. They need offense. They need impact offense. I think they believe, it's not going to be easy for him. It's still an adjustment time. He's 21 years old, has hardly played above A ball, same as so many of these other young guys. But I think they still believe he can be an impact guy. And I agree with you on the shortstop thing. Like, it was eye-opening enough to me to where you could believe that, going ahead in the future, like that could be
exactly
your shortstop.
Yeah.
he's got work to do on his body to just make sure he's such a big, strong kid naturally. You got to make sure you maintain some agility if you're going to play there, which I think he can do. I was impressed by it.
Yeah, I was too. And then the two youngsters that are playing right now, I know the batting averages have dipped a little. Just the way they conduct their at-bats is very similar. Matos and Bailey. Bailey's defense has been outstanding. I think Matos' defense has been really good. I like both guys. I know you want to make the playoffs, but if these two young guys can sustain and get a little taste of September baseball, I think it's win-win this year.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I think Matos is in danger when Yastrzemski gets healthy of losing some playing time because, it's just harsh right now. Like, every game feels so big. You got to get every little advantage you can get. That doesn't mean Matos isn't going to play and come into games later for some upgraded defense. He is. But I do think that, he's showing the signs of a young player. Last night was a good example of it. The grind of a major league season almost always gets these young guys. And it's not just the physical grind. Their bodies are capable of it, but it's the mental pressure of performing every day with so much on the line. At some point, you just get fatigued and you start to make little mistakes that you didn't make. The at-bat quality maybe dips a little bit. And so sometimes having some more time to just sit and watch can be a good thing. Like just to kind of hit that refresh button. And so I think the Giants will look for ways to do that with him. He's still going to be a big part of their future. He's a good defensive player. He's going to be a good hitter. Up the middle, premium defensive talent is so valuable in this game. And if you have a good young defensive center fielder, you're way ahead of the curve. Bailey, since you mentioned him, I had somebody to me say yesterday or a couple days ago, Patrick Bailey has been the best defensive player in big league baseball, number one.
Wow.
And at the most important position, he's been the number one defensive player. Now, there are other good ones, but I think I agree. This guy's defense can be a carrying talent for the entire Giants franchise. It can be. The way he handles a pitching staff, the way he throws, the way he controls a running game is elite, like top of the game elite. And it's really exciting to watch. He's just a really gifted, special defensive player.
Another guy who's been special for the Baltimore Orioles is Adley Rutschman, but we're not going to talk about the Orioles and what they've done in that AL list. It's a broadcast partner of yours, Kevin Brown. And no, we're not talking about the former Florida Marlins pitcher who once threw a no-hitter. We're talking about Kevin Brown, who calls Oriole games. However, he's been pulled off the broadcast since July 26th for really not saying anything egregious. He just mentioned that the Orioles have struggled at Tropicana Field and they struggled against the Rays, and yet he's been yanked off the broadcast. Now, this is not the first time the Orioles owner, Peter Angelos, has done something like that. Heck, it's why we have John Miller in the Bay Area, because Peter wasn't too fond of what he was saying about the Orioles back in the day, which really wasn't anything egregious. So what's your thoughts on this whole situation here as Kevin Brown has been suspended by the Baltimore Orioles for really not saying anything wrong?
Yeah, it was. It's so silly. Kevin, I feel bad for Kevin because number one, Kevin, the Giants fans probably don't know much about him. He is pretty new, but he's very good, very talented, super enthusiastic, has been like a perfect fit with a young ascending Orioles team because he's just so kind of bubbly and giddy with how the Orioles have been playing. He's really good at what he does, and the fans really like him. He's just a very good young broadcaster. So I feel for Kevin because nobody wants this to happen, and nobody in our business wants to be the center of attention. I guess Harry Carey did, sort of, but most of us want to be a part of it, but not the story. That's just not why we do it. And so I'm sure it's really uncomfortable for Kevin, and is going to be whenever he does get to come back. It's just that's no good. I just don't wish that on anybody, even if they do something that you might say kind of warranted something like this. It's just an awkward thing. The second part about it is it's so self-defeating for the Orioles. Like, the Orioles are they're the coolest story in the sport right now. And now what are people talking about? Like, how petty and sensitive, and it's also just not the way. If you want talented people working for you, this is definitely not the way to make that happen. It makes me very, very appreciative of what we have with the Giants. We've got a franchise, an ownership group, a front office that lets us be us and lets us tell the story of the team in our own personal way, and never would do something like this to us. And it makes me feel very, very grateful.
All right, Flem. That's a good way to end this conversation this week. You get Shohei tomorrow on the mound, but Scott Alexander opening the game for the Giants today against Luis Giolito, who struggled in his first 2 starts with the Angels after being traded from the White Sox. And, of course, you get to see Shohei tomorrow. But the Giants trying to win their second in a row and get these bats rolling here. Flem, we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, it's an important couple days for the Giants. You got to get some confidence offensively. You got the Rangers and the Rays, 2 of the very best, and then the Braves and the Phillies. I mean, you got really elite offensive teams coming up where you're going to have to, even if you pitch the way you can pitch, you're going to have to score some runs. So the 1-0 against the Diamondbacks, the 3-2 against the Red Sox, that's not going to work over the next 2.5 weeks. You're going to have to score some runs. So I feel like it's a really important couple days to just build that momentum.
And next week we'll talk about the Pac-12 and what's going on with that. We're running out of time today. We can talk about that all day. Yeah, it's pretty sad what's going on here on the West Coast. Flem, take care, man. We'll talk to you next week.
Now that's the one you'll have to get me to hold my tongue, because I could unload on some people on that one. That's an embarrassing situation, but we'll talk next week.
We'll unload on that Tuesday. Next Tuesday.
ACC Flem.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
Oh Lord.
Oh,
Talk
man,
to you,
get
buddy.
Out of here, Flem. Enjoy Disneyland.